Hey there, my friends. Are you ready to create? This is Sandy, and this video is going to walk us through my Everyday Skies 12 card workshop. Two of these cards are going to be shakers, and we're going to do those ones first. But I wanted to run through, I'm not going to do this technique to all of them, but I used the Starstruck Embossing Folder on a lot of these. And if you like the way it looks, when we get to that point, just pause your video, run your paper through the embossing machine and continue. I'm not going to do that for the sake of the video because you guys know how to emboss if you've got an embossing folder. If not, come over and use my stuff and I'll help you through it. So I ran these two pieces of paper through the embossing folder just to show you the two different ways that we are going to be adding some extra texture to these now textured papers. So I've got some scrap paper here. One way we are going to add some texture is taking an ink pad and just running that ink pad over top of the image of the paper, and then that makes the images pop right out, right? That's awesome. The other thing that you can do, and you can interchange these on all the cards as we go through them, you make them yours, no rules here. So the other thing that I did on some of them is just used some sandpaper, and when you sand, it pulls the color off the surface and reveals that white core. So if you just keep doing it, there's it fully sanded. And here it is inked. So two different ways that you'll be able to use that in whatever embossing folder you decide to use. I used the Starstruck. The other things, as I created this kit, I focused mainly on obviously the Everyday Skies papers, which are absolutely gorgeous, but also the Everyday Arches dies and different ways that you can interchange these different sizes of dies to create layers. And you will need the Everyday Arches. I guess you can use any stamp set you want, but I used the Everyday Arches to create my 12 cards. Okay, so to your kit, you've got 12 card bases that you're going to want to fold in half, give a good score mark, and that's your card bases. They were in the back of your stack. You've got a little sheet of embellishments that we're going to use throughout the cards. Each of your 12 envelopes has all the pieces that you need to create, pardon me, each of these 12 cards that we're going to do in order from the top to the bottom in your stack. Just make your life a little easier. So this first piece of paper, what you're going to do is pick your choice of inks. I would say 6 or 7 colors. Let me double check. 2, 4, 6 or 7 colors, 2 to 3 each of the cute little hot air balloon you're going to want on this piece of paper. Well, I've got 7 colors, 3 each of the hot air balloons stamped. I know I need a blue one for this first card, so I just went ahead and cut that one out. And I'm going to start with this first card in our stack. And I grabbed a card base. I'm going to use these 2 blue pieces of paper. And these are going to get attached to the edges of the cards. Then the pink piece of paper, I'm going to tear down the edges of both sides. So just pinching and pulling, tear those 2 sides off. And then you're going to want this pink piece to be about middle, making sure you're covering up the white base on there. Then we're going to build ourselves a little shaker window. So if you want, you can put your birds on here and using foam tape. Now you don't want the foam tape to be the full thickness. So if you've got some shorter, narrower not as tall foam tape, you'll want to put that on the back of that guy and stamp any birds you may want to have on there, keeping in mind that only this much of it's going to show. Okay, so get your little bird stamped, and while you're at it, stamp "You Are Simply Fantastic," or if you're not using the stamp set, you could even do your words right in the middle there to create a little shaker window. All right. So after you get this piece stamped, you're going to attach the plastic with adhesive, just regular adhesive to that, and trim that plastic just around the edge off so that you've got a nice window in the middle. And this piece is going to get glued to this side like that. Okay, so get those pieces attached. Okay, so here's where we're at right now. I'm going to use some of my itty bitty Boca mix and put some of that in my window. You don't want too much because you don't want to cover up your birds. Putting the lid back on because I'm a notorious spiller. Okay, so you want this mostly toward the middle because we're going to be covering up. I've put foam tape close to the edge of the inside rim around the window. Now, it doesn't line up perfectly, but all of the gaps are closed so that nothing's going to fall out. So now I can take the backing off of these protective strips, foamy goodness, and I'm going to close in my birds, pressing real firmly around the edges there. And then this can just go on the front of your card with regular tape, but I am using a lot of tape because it's a shaker element and I don't want it to fall off. This just goes in the center of that card, and I'm going to use two of the larger silver doodads right there. And that first shaker card is done and fun. We'll move on to our next envelope of fun. All right, here's what we've got in our next envelope. We're going to start with these two pieces. What I want you to do is kind of place one, the white one behind there, so that you know where the frame is going to be, and stamp whatever you want stamped in there first. We're also going to want one of our hot air balloons, and I want it to be a little bit darker of a orange. So I'm taking one of the orange ones and I'm just adding a little bit of color with a brush onto it before I cut it out. So I'm going to cut this out, and then I'm also going to again attach this window to this frame. Okay, so I've got my foam tape on the back of there around the window. All right, got my window attached. I put my itty bitty Boca mix on there. Now there are some of these ones that are flat on one side and round on another. I did go through and find them and flip them over on this one. Totally up to you if you're even using these particular filler fun. All right, so I've got the backing off of that. I'm going to line this up best I can. Okay, and then flipping it over and doing a nice firm press around the edges. All right, so we've got our shaker element ready. Now, if you want to, you can run this through the embossing machine and add the texture to that paper if you want. I'm going to leave mine plain. And we've got this pattern paper that's going to go up the side. Then add Your shaker element, this is going kind of framed right in the middle there, bottom and sides, and then it'll line up at the top. We've got a half of a circle that's going to go right down in here. And then you're going to use two of the smaller silver gems in the bottom right corner to finish this card off. So there is our second card. Let's move on to the next. Right. So here's the card we're working on next. Excuse me. If you want to, you can run that through the embossing machine and sand it or ink it. I just attached it to the card. Then we're going to build on top of here. So we've got, I stamped Know You Are Loved, or whatever it is you want to stamp. I'm going to add my piece of silver and then my piece of glitter underneath that. And then trim the excess off of both of these. Add your um, this little guy here is going to fall right in between those words, Know You Are Loved. This goes on the front of your card, and if you've embossed it, you're going to want to do some kind of like extra, maybe glue dots or something to hold it to the embossing paper. Then on this one, those two little blings there, that's just from, I used some of these little itty bitty Bokamix guys and added just a little bit of glue, liquid glue to hold those in place, or you can use the super two-sided super sticky stuff. But that card is done and we can move on to our next one. This one I started by stamping that. Thanks so much. You're also, if you want to, you can emboss this, and I threw some ink over top of it. So you decide if you want to add that extra bit of texture to this piece, or I'm just going to leave it flat on this sample. All right, so that's going at the top of our card. Then I'm going to tear. I'm leaving a little bit of space at the top here, but I'm just pinching and pulling to create kind of a tear in the sky before I attach this piece. Isn't that a fun look? I think it's cool. Okay, then I did Thanks So Much goes right in the center of this frame. You've got a little tiny piece of glitter that goes along the edge here of the words. I'm going to trim off those little hangy parts. This I'm putting flush along the edge of the card. And I'm going to take two of the bigger gold embellishments, and they're going to go in the bottom left corner. Gorgeous, love it. So to start this one, if you want, you can do the embossing and sanding. You'll want to stamp your sentiment, whatever that's going to be. I did thanks, and I did a bird on the thanks, a bird on the purple, and a bird on the white, just to keep the birds going. Totally up to you if you decide you want to do that. Okay, so when we're doing this, I'm going to start by adding my adhesive all the way at the top of this, and that right now is the only place that this one is attached, so that I can now tuck this white piece behind there. Okay. Then we're going to add this purple piece, and that's going to go about the same distance that we have over here, you want over here. Then our thanks goes in between there. And you may want to, at this point, add a little bit of tape to hold that piece down. Got this spot where I added the thanks. I'm going to do this a little more to the left than the right. Add your frame. I need more adhesive. But so this frame is two of the arches that are right near the same size, just one on top of another to cut the outside and the inside at the same time. I love these arches. Super, super fun. So again, add the birds, and I added two little gold gems to finish that card off. I definitely like it better with the embossing, right? But it's a little more classic and simple this way. You do you. Let me bring this up close so you can see. So this white arch right here, I ran through the embossing folder and then ran a yellow ink over top of it. Reach for the stars, a couple of these little stars on here. The orange, so it's actually the inside part of our second card. So you're actually flipping it over. It's going to feel kind of weird because you're stamping on the kind of back side, but it's going to work. Promise. So I'm not going to do the embossing part on here. We're going to start with our orange piece. That's going to go about 2¼ inches up from the bottom. Then our white piece is going to overlap that, still flushed along the edge there. Add your reach for the stars. Oh, I didn't add my little hot air balloon there. Let me stamp him real quick. I know my stamping set up off to the side. Make my workspace a little easier. All right, so we've got reach for the stars. We've got one more arch or a half circle, I guess, that's going to go here. And you may have to hang it off the edge, which is fine, so that it doesn't cover up any of your words. So we've got a nice flush edge there. And then I'm just going to cut out one of these I'm actually going to do a couple. I'm going to do a yellow because I've got some white space up here that I feel like I now need to fill. So I'm going to do that one. And I'm also going to do one of these peachy guys. So I'll add those and then two of the bigger copper gems go in the corner. And that finishes up this card. Bring these up close so you can see the variants. So just adding that hot air balloon, I think, does a nice little balance if you're not going to be doing the embossing. Fun. Okay, let's work on embrace the journey. So I used airplanes for this one. If you're not doing airplanes, that's fine. You can do whatever you want. I embossed the half circle for this one if you want to do that. This piece goes right in the center. Then we've got the blue one that's going to go flush to the edge, with a little bit of the pattern paper underneath showing. I'm going to go stamp Embrace the Journey on here and get my airplane stamped. Okay, so I'm putting this one, there's a little bit of a gap in between those two. Okay, this one I'm going to tuck underneath here. A wee bit. And then this frame is going to go around that pink one. And then we've got our half circle that's going to cover up where all those guys overlap. Make sure you don't cover up any of your embrace the journey words, or whatever words you used. Then I've got two of the small copper gems right down here. Ooh, little copper. There. All right. And obviously this one I embossed, this one I didn't. That's why we've got a different look. I'm not going to add my birds to this one because I'm going to be adding butterflies to it later. I know, surprise, surprise, right? So I'm adding my hello with only tape at the top so that I can still slide all my pieces underneath that I want to go down in here. Got this blue one. And then this purple one is going to overlap a little bit of the white and where the blue overlaps all that. Then we've got this pink piece that you can emboss or not, totally up to you. That's going to come up a little bit. I still want it overlapping the purple, but it's going to hang off the top here, and I'm just going to trim that off. And add our glitter half circle. Isn't it amazing what a little bit of a half circle can do to jazz up a card? And then I finished this off with two of the gold big guys right there. And again, I'm going to go back later and add a butterfly right here. Started by adding the pattern paper to the front of the card. Now I'm going to add thanks. I'm going to start by putting tape just on the bottom of that one so that I can tuck in the white one that I stamped the hot air balloon on behind there. Then we're going to leave a little bit of a gap and add this blue one, glitter above that. And then we've got our half circle that I added the embossing to, that I want to overlap all of these different pieces just a little bit. Then you can cut out whatever two hot air balloons make you happy. I did a purple and an orangey one. The two large copper gems are going on there. And that one will finish up with the hot air balloons. Our next one has lots of hot air balloons. All right, so with this one, again, if you want to emboss, go ahead and emboss on that white piece right there. Stamp hello or whatever you want your sentiment to be on that middle kind of orangish color. Let me get that stamping done real quick. So again, I'm not embossing, but you certainly can. I'm leaving mine flat. The white and the blue both get flush to the edge. Then we're going to add this hello, but put the frame on it first because it'll be a lot easier to line this up if you can kind of hold it and manipulate it. And if you need to, trim a little orange off the edge. I'm good though. Okay. So I've got those three pieces on. Now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 different balloons, all different colors I cut out of here. And some of them I did flat, some of them I popped, totally up to you. 2 little copper gems in the top left corner to finish that card off. So for this one, I started by adding my 2 pink pieces to the top and bottom. We did a card similar to this at the beginning of this workshop. Then take that pattern piece that's going to go in the middle and just tear down both sides. Add that to the center. Then I stamped your ray of sunshine on there. And that's going to come down and hang off the bottom just a little bit. Okay. Then we're going to add this piece so that it juts right up in the middle of a ray of sunshine. And then take this piece and put it so that none of your words are covered up. So how big this bottom glitter piece is going to end up being is different for everybody depending on where you stamp your words. But it still looks wicked cool, right? Wicked. All right, so this one I used the little gold gems right down here and added 2 hot air balloons to finish that off. All right, and we're on our last envelope, which means it's the last card of this workshop. All right, so if you want to run this through the embosser, and then I added blue ink on top of it. This piece that goes along the fold, then this piece goes at the opening. And I did it so that the lines are toward the middle so that you get more of that other kind of texture in there. This gets centered on this blue piece, and then stamp whatever words you want down in the clouds. So I'm going to do thanks so very much. So the thanks so very much is going to go in the center. We've got this fun little jobber that's just going to hang down here, covering up the edge of the blue, and our half circle of glitter goes at the top there. And we've got our 2 little gems. I must have used these on those. Oh. Yeah, 2 extras, or you used them in the earlier card when you should have, and I used something different. I thought it was kind of weird, but they didn't look the same. All right, and then 3 hot air balloons or butterflies or whatever you decide to do with this one. But that is the end of this Blue Skies 12 card workshop. I hope you had fun. Thanks for playing with me, and I'd love it if you commented. Mwah! Keep creating, friends.